I'd like to call the meeting to order of the Board of Leavenworth County Commission. I'd like to invite everyone to stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. For the record, all three commissioners are present. I'd like to start with a moment of silence. I'd like to start the meeting with public comment. Anyone from the public wishing to speak, please come forward, state your name and address, and just remind everybody about personal attacks and slanderous remarks against any person. Seeing none, we'll close that portion of the meeting. Do we have any presentations today? Would Roger, at this time, would that be appropriate to have Roger give us a presentation on the hearing Friday?
Good morning, members of the Commission. Chairman Smith, Mr. Roger Marks is present. If you would wish to have him give a report to this court, or excuse me, this board, on court proceedings that did take place Friday morning, if you wish.
I'd like to hear it.
I would too.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Roger Mars, Acting Deputy County Counselor. Court hearing on the lawsuit of employment contracts was held on Friday morning at the Justice Center. And
Excuse me, can everyone hear?
barely.
Barely?
Barely.
Okay. We're working on that.
It's on, so. So the hearing lasted a little over 2 hours, I believe. One of the things that was scheduled for hearing was the motion to dismiss the counterclaims that Mr. Reiber had filed on behalf of the county. Another matter that was on the before the court was a motion filed by Ms. Hughes' attorney asking to join other affected parties, other entities or individuals who have contracts with the county, and that was what the vast majority of the hearing was dealt with, that issue, I believe. And ultimately what the court held or ruled was that these other parties should be named as defendants and served with a copy of the petition and given an opportunity to file an answer in that. And then the hearing on the motion to dismiss the counterclaims was continued out to allow sufficient time for this amended petition to be prepared and filed and served on these individuals or entities. And so that hearing was moved to November the 27th. The individuals named in the motion by Ms. Hughes were Mr. Lawfrey, Megan Waters, David Van Paris, myself, Jamie Miller, John Forsland, Resource Services Solutions, and New Directions Behavioral Health. Some of these entities might not even be aware of what's going on with the court case whatsoever, and of course Mr. Van Paris' position has changed. I don't know to what extent. I don't know about Mr. Forsland's position, but that was
I thought
the
Mr.
motion.
Forsland retired like 3 years ago.
I thought he had some type of a contract with the county, but I don't know if that's still in force or not. I don't know.
Not that I'm aware of.
But anyway, that was the court's order, so there's some things still to sort out exactly how to apply that order. But that's what happened here.
I guess maybe I'd like to get an explanation. I don't know if you can provide it or not. Is we filed to seek declaratory judgment on these contracts. Shouldn't that have been heard first? I mean, did the system fail us here?
I wouldn't say that, Mr. Chairman. I mean, there's a process that goes through on the, in any kind of legal case, and there's rules of procedure that have to be followed, so.
Well, I just thought if they would answer that question, that would clear a lot of things up. Are the contracts valid or not? It's a yes or no question. It shouldn't have to be continued
Well, I
for
think,
years.
I'm sure when the board initiated proceeding, everyone hoped that it would be answered sooner rather than later, but it is, we won't even know whether the counterclaims will be allowed to be pursued until the next hearing, where that motion actually comes up.
So how close are we to hearing whether the contracts are valid or not? The yes or no question, the simple one.
I can't give you a definite answer to that. It's not even scheduled for hearing. at this
Probably
point.
January, somewhere in January 2019 probably.
I don't know.
Well, that's after I'm gone, see, so that'd be, then I haven't fulfilled my contract. Okay.
I would like to ask one question. If Mr. Lawfrey and you and all the others that you named are now entered into this lawsuit, wouldn't you have to be put on administrative leave, paid, as the three women are?
That's not my decision, so.
Question, just like an answer, Mr.
Well, I think I'm not an attorney.
I'm not either.
Certainly not a judge, so I wouldn't want to provide any legal advice. But I can say that the attorneys were placed on administrative leave after they filed a counter suit, I believe, which is what the conflict then came up.
Right.
So I think it was after they filed the suit against the county.
And it was referenced that they had a conflict of interest. Well, wouldn't that mean that some of these contracts also have conflict of interest? And I'm not trying to pick on you.
No, I understand. And I know that the discussion at the time, again, was there was a conflict of interest for the attorneys because of the higher standards of the Bar Association and the other guidelines that they follow, and that the board waived those until there was a countersuit filed, at which time then they removed that waiver, and so that placed the two attorneys on administrative leave.
Well, being you're the county administrator, well, maybe you are, maybe you aren't. If you're the county administrator, you're the man that is going to run this county according to this board. Wouldn't you deem yourself as having a conflict of interest?
I don't. I mean, my status, in my opinion, has not changed. And the reason I say that is because I've said all along, whatever the court rules, it applies to me equally, and I don't have any intention of suing the county in a counterclaim or anything like that. Whatever the court rules on these contracts would apply to my contract equally, and I think that's why, until this point, I haven't been brought in. The judge has decided that I should have my say. I can only speak to me. I know that it will not impact the way that I intend to do my job. If this board believes that it puts me in a position where I am at conflict and does not believe I can do my job because of it, then certainly it would be appropriate to put me on administrative leave. I'm no different than the other employees.
But you hit it on the head, this board.
This board. yes.
We have the power to put you on administrative leave.
Absolutely, at any time.
But if we're going
As-
to get in conflict of interest, we're going to have to put on a lot of people on administrative leave. So we don't want to go there.
As far as the attorneys go, I think it would be appropriate for them to comment on that. I don't think I could make that comment.
Morning, Commissioners. Commissioners, I have not seen, if I could ask Mr. Mars a question.
Yes, sir.
To your understanding, was any party directed by the court to prepare a journal entry of the hearing?
I'm not aware.
Did the court direct that its order, to whatever extent it was issued, was effective immediately or to await upon the filing of a journal entry?
I did not ask that question, Mr. Ryder.
Would you ask that question, Mr. Ryburn, at your earliest opportunity?
Certainly.
Okay. Commissioners, I don't wish to complicate this matter any further, but a court can make an order that is effective immediately by designating it as such. A court can also instruct any party that appeared before it to prepare a journal entry in consultation with the other attorneys present and submit it to the court for approval, upon which time it does become final. I'm unaware of the status of that and would ask Mr. Mars to clarify that. I would state, to the extent that I am now a party in a counterclaim against the county, I disavow any interest in pursuing that counterclaim and would just like to make that a statement on the record.
As to the counterclaim, or being a party, as the board's aware, my contract is substantially different than the contracts that were part of the suit, and I wouldn't have any interest or intention of being part of that counterclaim as well. I understand the court has ruled that I have to be served with a petition, named as a defendant, but I don't see that my interests with regard to my employment or relationship with the county is relevant to that suit at all.
Okay. And is that the way you see it, Commissioners? I mean, if they turn around and join the suit and sue, then there would be a conflict.
That's true.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, in the abundance of caution, I would ask that this board consider, under the circumstances, considering my position, although I've disavowed any participation in that counterclaim, and Mr. Mars' comments, to grant Mr. Mars and I a waiver of any perceived conflict on the part of this board. Neither Mr. Mars or I filed that counterclaim. I feel that in essence I'm being brought in, and Mr. Mars brought in for some tactical purposes, but to the extent that I have disavowed my participation, Mr. Mars has disavowed his participation, I'd ask the board to acknowledge that disavowal, and to the extent that there was any conflict, grant a waiver to that conflict. I have reviewed the rules of ethics in this. I am not pursuing any claim adverse to the interests of this county. Mr. Mars, are you?
No, I'm not.
Okay. I would just like that statement made and ask this board to consider that action.
So would that require a motion to waive a conflict if there is a conflict?
To waive conflict, if any, with respect to the counterclaim filed in the declaratory judgment action heard on the 27th of October.
Did you copy that? Here, thank you. That's my motion.
I'll second that. Voting?
Aye.
Aye.
Nay.
Anything else?
No, I don't have anything else. to
We're no
report.
closer than we were in March
I
or
would-
February.
I would like to ask Roger, were you at this hearing the whole time?
No, I did not go to the hearing. I was downstairs taking care of other things. I spoke to Mr. Ryburn to find out what was the outcome of the hearing.
It's my understanding that the judge, and I was not at the hearing, it's my understanding, though, that the judge made a comment that this will probably end up in the Supreme Court. Do you know anything in reference to that?
Don't have any knowledge of that whatsoever.
Okay.
God, I hope it's a federal Supreme Court. I don't want to just go to state. Let's make this worthwhile. So,
Anything else to add to that? Any more questions of Roger? Any other presentations this time? Thank you, Roger. I'd just like to recognize the transfer station. They had a KDHE inspection, no violations, no fines. I had a really good review on their inspection. And it's amazing, Commissioner, that you can have department heads do that without contracts. So,
She doesn't have a contract?
no.
Okay.
Anyways, on our consent agenda, do we have anything that needs pulled off for discussion or anything?
Well, now, the consent agenda is, that's not consisting of the checks,
Not this time.
not this time.
We wanted to make sure to discuss that first.
Okay.
Just this first time, so.
Because I have a lot of personal questions that would not be necessarily beneficial to the whole audience. It's just,
And those are not on the consent agenda
yeah,
this time, right?
okay.
Commissioner, you have any questions on the consent agenda?
We have one. Oh, go ahead. Did you have questions?
No.
The minutes, have we considered the lapel, so I don't have this thing?
Yeah, they're looking into that right now. One of
Spending.
Mr. Marlborough's staff members is researching, and they are looking for those style of microphones and how that would work with our system. So,
Okay.
yes, they are looking into those right now.
Spending that kind of money, don't you think we ought to, you're doing research, but we have not actually voted on doing that.
No.
Mr. Clamp just referenced that he would like it. I read through the minutes and there's no motion.
Once we get some proposals and idea of cost, we will bring that back to the board.
Because that is significant cost for 3 lapel. And
Well, and I think
I don't have it.
we're probably looking at addressing all these microphones because they all have some challenges. So, but we'll bring it back to the board before we make a decision. We want to make sure that since this is your meeting room and your sound system, that it is addressing your concerns. If there are any others, we want to make sure that's taken care of. And we also use this room for planning and zoning and BZA, so we want to make sure that it addresses their needs too. So it'll take a little while, but we will.
This is not for the commissioners.
No, and we are working on it. We will have it back before.
I'm mainly interested in price. If I have to, I'll buy my own. I'm not going to make a big deal out of this. I don't want to talk into the, you can leave it in here, and I'll just have one that plugs in, and I'll carry it with me.
We'll like I said, we'll bring it back to the board before any purchase is made.
I think there was one more thing on the minutes. Okay. I still don't go along with the comment that Human Resources Department to direct all requests to Mr. Lowry. It's not a thing that I'm going to probably live with when I request my own information. Have we looked at the log to see when Mr. Bixby checked out the information on Mr. Van Paris? Can we see a copy of that log?
I don't believe he checked it out. I believe it was,
So he stole it.
no, he didn't steal it either.
How'd he get it?
It was given to all commissioners, the way I understand it.
Oh, okay. So he pulled the same thing that you pulled where Mr. Lowry handed you
I wanted to
some-
make a point when I did that.
Yeah.
And my point was, once something's given to a commissioner, how do you get it back?
Yeah, well, you asked for it.
And Mr. Lawfrey asked me twice, if I'm not mistaken, and I told him no both times.
Okay, so-
And so that's my point. You're trying to blame the HR director for this.
No, I'm not blaming her.
Once she gives this to the
There are other
commission.
leaks, Bob. There are other leaks in that'll come out in the court case. Oh, and don't look puzzled because it's going to come out. So that was just my question. I think I was talking, so when I'm talking, let me talk. When you
Okay.
talk, then, okay?
Okay.
So I would like to see a copy of when it was handed out. Give me the date then, if there is no There should be somewhere where they were handed the information and none of them handed it back. Was this done in executive session? How was it done? You know, we've got to get to the bottom of this, because we had a person violate somebody else's records, and that cannot be tolerated. That's why you learn from that. You're not handing out anymore. In fact, we may not ever have another executive session, because we cannot have that happen in executive session. The last thing I think is letters in the files. Has that been accomplished? Of the individuals, not by name, of the individuals.
And that's a personnel matter that I won't discuss in public.
But I think, wasn't that a motion?
No.
It
That
is.
was a request by you.
No,
There was a motion,
There was a motion.
and the reason I seconded your motion is because I think every supervisor, when they have a verbal counseling session, it's part of our policy.
Should be, right.
It's
Because
part of our policy that
Okay.
you document when you meet with an employee. I mean, I don't.
So it was a motion and a second. How'd the vote come out?
2-1.
Okay. So it's no longer personnel, it's 2-1, put letters in the files. So if you can get that accomplished for me, I appreciate it. Thank you.
I guess
I'll move that we accept the minutes.
I'll second that. Voting?
Aye.
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 Are we ready for approve the appointment of the KCATA Advisory Board member?
Were there any OCBs today? Okay. Yep.
All right, Commissioners, we have a candidate for appointment for the KCATA Board. It's Nancy Bowder, the mayor of Leavenworth. I support her appointment.
Is that a motion?
No,
Not yet, we're
I'd like some
discussing.
discussion.
Well, I
Mr.
thought you had to do a motion and a second, and then you had discussion theoretically.
Well, I'll
Right.
make that motion then.
I'll second it.
All right, for
With
discussion.
discussion.
That's
Yeah.
correct.
Okay. Number one, was this put out to the other cities so that they could have someone represented by them, such as Lansing and Baser? Several years ago, we brought this up to the city of Leavenworth, and they were not interested in having KTA come to Leavenworth. They were not interested at all. The city manager at the time said, no way, he doesn't want it. And actually, there is a sitting commissioner that also said that, and he is still on the board. And I think by looking at the KTA situation, I think it would be more advantageous to look at Lansing and look at Baser. I think they would have more reason to be on this board because they are both growing communities, and I think they would be interested in something like this because of their people that live in the city of Lansing. In fact, I think Lansing would be my top choice because Lansing would be able to, the KTA bus would come up, pick up people in Lansing, pick up people in Baser, maybe even Tonganoxie. And if Leavenworth wanted to intercede into this, they could also be a part of this. And I think that Lansing would be the top candidate. But did we reach out to them? No, because I think Mr. Smith has already, he wanted this appointment made when Clyde and I voted no to let the current person that was representing us. And another thing I want to know is by appointing someone outside the county commission, is this giving up our seat?
No, I think it's still Leavenworth County.
It'll still be a Leavenworth County seat because I'm not for giving up the Leavenworth County seat.
Yeah,
We're not giving up the Leavenworth County seat. The Leavenworth County Board, or the Board of County Commissioners is a appointing this person who lives in Leavenworth, is an elected official in Leavenworth, in the largest city in Leavenworth County.
Well, I did check that out too, and they do have to be a elected official, but they also can be an elected official that is no longer serving, can be on that board.
I choose not to have an elected official or past elected official to serve on that board that puts personnel files on the news.
Well, you know, that, Bob, you bring up a good point. And we didn't go out searching the other areas. But they've had a change of management there, and now they have an interest. They are the main bringer of income into this county. So that's why I do not have a problem with it. I do agree that it would have been nice to go out to Easton and Linwood. You know, let's get into the good cities. They don't ask for anything, God bless their hearts. But I think Nancy fulfills all of the parameters that we need. We sometimes make, in my opinion, like the courts, it goes on and on and on. We could have established a committee and studied who would be the appropriate person. So I'm willing to bypass that this time, but it is a good point. In the future, maybe we need to be a little more wise and say, let's go out and research the world. So, but we didn't do that. So
Well,
I call for the motion.
Lansing is your district.
That's
so,
right.
And I feel if there's going to be public transportation coming to Leavenworth, it'll go through Lansing
Yep.
to get there.
Well, I can get through all the stoplights. So I move for the motion.
All right, Mayor, would you like to speak?
Yeah, with for a second. Chairman, Commissioners. I would just like to say that we have been working with the KTCA. I've had several meetings with them, and then our community had a meeting with them recently, and we wanted to make sure there was representation throughout the county, because I work for a home care agency. I go out and make visits throughout the county. I see the people that need transportation. I see the people that need transportation to work, to the doctor, to school. And it's a countywide issue. It's not just the city of Leavenworth. And this is something we'll be going throughout the entire county. And right now we're doing a needs assessment, and we're looking at the opportunity to get grants and to partner with the greater Kansas City area in order to get transportation to those in our community. So I am very dedicated to representing the county as well as the city of Leavenworth. Thank you.
I am fully aware of that, Mayor. Now,
Call for
I
the
got
motion.
a call. No, we have a motion. In a second, we had discussion.
Yes.
Calling for a vote.
Call for the vote. Aye.
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 Thank you. Thanks for willing to take this position.
Have you submitted for your paycheck and all that?
I get a paycheck?
Actually, she does.
Really?
Oh, okay.
It's a paid position.
A whole $100.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mayor.
Yeah.
$100, and it pays for, all it does is pay for your transportation down there to all the meetings.
And if you could get public transportation up here, you wouldn't need that.
That's right.
Yeah. Well, the IRS going to be looking into that 100.
Yeah.
Now, not the billions, but the 100.
Yeah. There you go. We got any questions on reviewing of the checks issuance? Do you got any questions on that?
Well, I'd like to discuss it just a little bit in that
All right.
I'd like to take a little bit different approach in approving the checks that are going to be issued. Currently, we bring up books after book after book for a couple of the commissioners to find the time to try and sign before we send the checks out, which can lead to late payments in some occasions and penalties in some occasions, and
I try to sign them as soon as I get them.
we appreciate that. But it is, I mean, as you can see, every one of these reports here, it requires a check to pay for them. So what we'd like to do is bring to the board on a regular basis, maybe even weekly as we go forward, the check registers, which has the information on who we're paying and the amount that we're paying, and ask the board to approve those. And then that would allow the clerk and I to sign off on the check register so that we could go ahead and issue the checks. I think it'll speed up the process, and it actually makes it even more open because these will be part of your packet, and that will be posted to the website. So anybody who wants to can go out and review these. In the past, we have not been doing that. So this is a kind of a change. Wanted to discuss it with the board and see if it's something you would support. And the clerk obviously is here if you
As
have any
long as it's
questions.
more efficient.
I think it's also important to realize that any specific purchase order that you would like to look at is available. You can come down to the office, we can still bring them up if you want. It's just not a matter of signing each purchase order. But they're all readily available to any one of the board members to see.
See, when I went through it, it created a lot of thought processes. And one of them was, how many jury selections that the juries never used because they settled? That'd be nice to know that presentation, because I have never been on one. I've been selected but removed because they thought I wouldn't have an opinion. And but there was a case that came up that had a jury selected. They show up, out walks the attorney, settled. So we paid them money. How much money are we wasting, and can we eliminate that waste? But that's what I say. You don't have to answer that. There's just a lot of questions that come up like that. $3,000 for a court appointment. $3,000 for a court appointment. $3,000. You know, the courts have taken over the rule of the land, and to me that is not the most beneficial thing that we can have. So it's just, and I think that coming out once a week or once, you know, I think that'd be much better. That way you can, if you get here early, you can look through it. You know, you've gone through it. You don't have, how many pages we got here?
Well, this month is a little unusual because the previous month's bills have not been signed yet, and so you do have a bigger stack than you normally would. That's why we would recommend bringing it up once a month,
Okay.
so that it is less to review on a weekly basis.
Would this still require our signatures?
It would require a motion to pass the check register in order for Mr. Lothry and I to go ahead and proceed with releasing the checks. Currently, we do not release any checks until the purchase orders have been signed by the board. Now, I take exception to that if we have a utility, something, but we've discussed that in prior months, that utility type bill, we do go ahead.
Well, early issue, like, I'm sure like when Public Works gets a load of fuel, I mean, it can be $10,000. I mean, they don't want to, they just miss the cutoff, and then you're talking about a month and a half waiting for.
And then there is a penalty assessed to any sort of a late payment that we have.
Isn't that funny? We don't get anything. Do I get anything from the IRS late payment? No, but everything goes forward. See, it's and I know a lot of businesses that they hold off for 60 days because they're allotted 60 days, and that puts a bind on the smaller business.
It
So,
does.
But I think it's a good
That's true.
idea.
I'm just still in awe that you've never been selected for a jury.
That's a good point. Well, they don't, they want somebody they can mold. I'm not a molder.
Anyway, so do we need a motion on this?
Yes.
I would like to ask one question to Mark.
Yeah.
So you're up to this, that you can look at each one of these consent agendas, because we have had some problems in the past with attorney bills being paid that weren't supposed to be paid out of certain accounts, and would you be able to recognize that
Yes.
and the fund that it's supposed to come out of? and-
So, yeah, prior to this process, the board has signed off, checks were issued, they did not run through my department, through my review. Going forward, if the board decides to do this, I will be reviewing all of these. If I see any that I have questions on, I'll call him out. And also the board can too. So when we bring these up before the board, if there's any item in here, you can either come and talk to me or the clerk, or you can bring it up during the meeting and we can look into it further. But this actually adds a second set of review for this, in my opinion, and it also opens it up to a little easier access to the public if they have any interest in it.
So you're saying you support this action?
I do, yes.
And the clerk supports this. Do you see it streamlining this, be a little more efficient?
I do. I think sometimes it can be difficult for the board members to get the purchase orders signed in a timely manner in order for
Just got to
us.
stay here and do it.
That's true, but sometimes it doesn't.
Like I said, I think our bills need to get paid. Like Mr. Klimp was saying, small businesses are affected when they miss a cutoff day. And some of these businesses, some of their bills are pretty high.
And the departments work with Debbie and my office really well. We try to make sure that those bills do get paid in a timely manner so that we don't incur any sort of additional expenses.
Right.
And I think it's important to recognize that she works very hard to get the invoices paid and checks sent out.
Well, like I said, I just know how much Public Works spends during the months on
Absolutely.
asphalt, oil, stuff like that, and these are local, some of these are local businesses. We support local businesses, I think. And to have $100,000, ooh, you didn't make the cutoff, it's gonna be another month and a half before you get your check.
We don't want that.
We don't want that. So with that, would we, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move to have this system established that the three just presented. And if somebody wants to read off the verbiage of what it will be, I would appreciate that.
So it would authorize the county administrator and the county clerk to approve the checks to be issued after review by the Board of County Commissioners.
That's my motion.
Second.
Voting.
Aye.
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 Thank you.
Thank you.
We have any announcements or reports at this time? Yes, sir. Go ahead, Commissioner.
I want everybody to listen closely to what I'm saying. First question is for Mr. Lowry. Are you accepting the new contract proposal that I presented last Thursday? And if you want to take 5 minutes to go consult with somebody, or are you staying with your financial? Because I noticed in the legal brief, to show you how accurate legal briefs are, it says in here that you are the county administrator. You're the county financial officer, assuming the position, in a sense, of county administrator. You've never been appointed to that position, I don't believe.
There was a vote, there was a motion and a second, and a
Okay.
vote to name me as county
So
administrator.
I guess,
Commissioner Graver made that motion.
okay. So
I can't tell you the
you
day.
have two contracts.
Well, they did not issue a contract at that time. My understanding was that there would be one forthcoming, which is what was brought forward last week, that you offered the amendment to.
Okay, so I want you to think very carefully on this. Are you accepting the new and dropping the financial officer? You're entitled to go outside and think about it for 5 minutes.
I've had a week or so to think about it. I don't believe with the amendment that was proposed, that it's in my best interest to accept the new contract, and therefore I do choose to continue to work under my existing contract.
Okay? I'm looking at the best interest for the county. And that should include you also. I have no faith in courts. None. At any level. They've disgraced our cities, our counties, our states, our federal, and it goes on and on. November the 22nd, that's the next hearing for,
27th, I believe.
for what?
27th, I think, is what he said.
What did I say, the 22nd?
Yeah.
I meant 27th, thank you very much. 27th, we're going to have another discussion. And then it'll be it won't be 27th December because that's too close to Christmas, and they don't like to ruin their Christmas. There was a wonderful report given on TV yesterday about 42% of the House are lawyers. Gave a big percentage on how many in the Senate are lawyers. What are we losing by bringing all these imports into the country? I know this is a little bit off, but lawyers don't lose anything. There's no lawyers coming in to take their positions, so they don't lose anything. My motion's going to be to fire the 5 individuals, which includes the human resource, the 2 lawyers, I don't know what their positions are, Mr. Lowry, and the gentleman from the Public Works.
I believe the gentleman from Public Works surrendered his contract.
Is that true?
Commissioner Clement, members of the commission, it is my understanding that the court did grant your motion on summary judgment with regarding to, I believe, Mr. Grierson.
Greer.
I think the court granted a default judgment on behalf of the county. That contract is void.
That would what?
That contract is void.
He's a regular employee now.
Yes.
He's a regular employee.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So he's dropped out. So we have 4 left. And that is my motion, is to remove them from their offices, because this is going to go on for eternity. They are suing us with our money. Now, granted, Mark, you're not, but you're along for the ride. And I gave you the opportunity to not be along for the ride.
I gave you the opportunity to. I offered a new contract with the 1-year term.
I don't want the 1-year term. I'm giving you the 1-year term after you prove yourself. You know, it's amazing. 2 bankers, one had 47 years, never had a contract. I had a contract, signed it with the United States Navy. And I sure didn't go back on that contract, or I'd gotten back to Leavenworth a lot earlier. So, I do not like paying for somebody else's lawsuit while they sue us and create all this consternation. So that is the reason for my motion. Let them now pay for their lawsuit, and I'll guarantee you it will get into the courts faster than us just gliding along because they just dwindle in whenever they want and file this report for the courts, file this report. So if they are working on their own money, they're going to get at it a little faster. So that's my motion, is to fire the 4 remaining.
I'd like to make a secondary motion. I'd like to make a motion that we drop the lawsuits on these 4 people
Wait a
and
minute.
quit spending county taxpayer money
Do we do a secondary
frivolously.
Point of order.
Yeah, we got it.
There's a motion on the floor.
There's a motion on the floor. I'm gonna,
Let's-
discussion here.
Let's second it, and then we discuss, and then it falls or fails, and
Well,
then,
all right.
okay?
I'll second it with discussion. I was a part of Mr. Lawfrey's interview. The commission allowed me to sit in. I supported Mr. Lawfrey because I thought he was the person we were looking for. He had a strong financial background and he had administrative experience. Exactly what we were looking for. I was there when they offered him a 2-year contract. I supported his 2-year contract. But then I guess he got a phone call from Human Resources that said he got a 3-year contract. I never seen where that took place in any minutes of a meeting. I'm sure it was called a personnel action. I'm sure Mr. Lawfrey was kind of brought into the web of deception on contracts. But I was there when they, and I agreed with it. I was not sworn in. The board was courteous enough to allow me to sit in on such an important position interview. I can't say they allowed me any more after that, but I supported his 2-year contract. And the contract that Mr. Lawfrey came back with was a year with a year severance, which I supported that. I'll support that.
I think Bob had something he wanted to say. Not a amended motion,
But
but
discussion.
discussion.
I think you're going to make a big mistake if you do this. I think it's going to cost the county millions of dollars. And I think that this is not anything but retaliation against these people.
You may think it's retaliation, Bob, but it is due to Dennis Bigsby and you.
And what has Dennis Bixby got to do with this process?
You started it. And
No, I don't
has
believe
been
I
a started
started it.
procedure. So
It
the
was
motion
started-
is to get rid of the problem, and that is the only way we're going to get back to normality, is to remove the problem. And the problem is, number one, human resource, 2 attorneys. You ever notice how we're just getting bogged down with attorneys and we're trying to remove them? It can't be done. It's like infestation of Russian thistles. I had picked one that had thorns on it. You just can't accomplish it. Once they get in there, God bless their hearts, and I know there is a good one out there somewhere. Has to be one that does something. Well, we had one. Who was the guy that did the lawsuit on the Corps Bears many years ago?
Ralph Nader.
Ralph Nader started out to be a good lawyer, and then he went downhill because he got politically involved. So that's my motion. We'll
It's
vote
been
on the
a
motion.
in a second.
I've got a motion in a second. I'll call for a vote.
Aye.
Nay.
Nay.
And the reason I voted nay is because I supported Mr. Lawfrey's 2-year contract, and Commissioner Holland was there when they gave him a 2-year contract. It was, now I don't know how the 3-year came about. I don't think anybody does because there's no minutes to reflect that. But I would support Mr. Lawfrey's 1-year contract with 1-year severance.
Okay, I'm going to do another motion. That's to move Mr. Lowry from the firing and fire the other 4.
3.
Yeah, 3.
Mr.
Well, there could be 4. Who knows? There may be one out there I don't know about.
And could you list them positions in your motion?
Human resource position. I'm not naming any names.
That's correct. Don't name any names.
And 2 attorneys that are what are their job classifications?
County counselor, deputy county counselor.
There you go. That's the motion. To remove them from office.
Effective immediately.
Effective immediately. No delay.
Is that 3?
Yeah. 2 attorneys and 1 human resource. 1, 2, 3. Did you have somebody else you wanted to go?
I'm going to stand now.
Okay.
The other guy withdrew his.
Yes.
He's dropped anyway.
Yes, he's a regular employee.
Okay.
I'll second that.
Okay.
Any discussion?
Not aye.
Voting.
Aye.
Aye.
Nay. I would like to read something because I figured this was coming. I've
When
heard
did you figure it was coming, Bob?
the
Should have come the
firings.
first day.
The firings.
Yeah, should have come the first day.
Yeah.
I was asked not to.
And I have the floor now, Mr. Clem. My public statement is the firing of Ms. Copeland. This new commission has chosen to approve to terminate HR director for no cause.
Oh, wait a minute.
Did you two meet over the weekend?
There is no cause.
Wait a minute.
I have the floor.
no,
I have the
an
floor.
objection. You're saying no cause. You don't know no cause.
I repeat, no cause. I am against this. Typically, if the board takes this type of action, we are provided documentation that shows cause. I have not gotten any documentation that shows cause.
Well, your mind is blind to it.
Documentationally,
Yeah.
even you ought to understand that. Typically, if the board takes this type of action, we are provided documentation that shows cause, and then we address the issue with employee as part of the due process. We have done none of that, so it is pure retaliatory in nature. To make matters worse, we are not supposed to speak about it publicly, and this was just made public, so you have not protected these employees' privacy. In this case, Ms. Copeland's termination is not for documented cause. It is pure retaliation for her efforts to approximately follow and enforce county, state, and federal policies and employment laws, which has impacted a few high-level officials this commission is aware of. This activity, as she has explained, is to us, so their actions, in my opinion, are retaliatory as they have been properly informed. This is an attempt to silence Ms. Copeland by this commission, terminating her, which, in my opinion, violates her rights, county policy, and the law. Ms. Copeland, her dedicated staff, has in 2.5 years got the HR department in compliance, cleaned up backlogs, implemented a new payroll system, fixed pay inequities, and improve employee wages without costing the taxpayer any more money. Added additional holidays for employees, lowered insurance costs for employees, created savings to the county for employment insurance, and created additional family savings by offering flexible spending accounts. And most of all, she has stood up to those who are doing wrong against great personal sacrifice to herself to protect the county employees by enforcing county policy and recommending to the commission to take action when it was being violated. It is this commission's responsibility to enforce county policy and the law. These two have violated, and that today are sending a message to all employees that you stand up against what is wrong, you will face retaliation or be terminated. Ms. Copeland has done her job exceptionally well and always in a professional manner. I have personally seen her dedication to this county and have witnessed the long hours that she works to ensure her department runs smoothly. This will be a huge loss to this county. It is my opinion and belief Ms. Copeland is being terminated for discriminatory reasons for engaging in protected activity by reporting violations of the county policy and law. I believe this is a personal vendetta by these two commissioners because she has taken a stance to bring back county ethics, fairness, and equality. And as part of this process, she has tackled some pretty high-level, sensitive, and critical issues involving high-level officials. This is pure retaliation. I am here to state that I believe this action will be costly to the county due to the pending litigation, and the county will suffer dearly for the actions of these two commissioners. We may even have to bond money to pay for this, as I believe their actions will prove to be retaliatory.
I'm sure glad I'm not the one that offered them contracts, Bob.
Yeah. Now, the point is, if you really thought so much about her firing,
I did.
yeah, that's conflict to me. But
What's conflict?
You did not protect the other two. You're only thinking of her. You should have been commenting on 3 people that were fired. Now, I'm going to go back to one statement. If the courts cannot concede this statement, courts need to be removed, and we need to go to the old tree. For these reasons, she needs, this is Mr. Holland in session, in the minutes. For these reasons, she needs our protection. Now that, I don't know what that means, but she's being protected.
She needs
From
protection
those
from you
that may
too.
still want to try to fire her in the next several years because of the work she is doing for the county, and I could have added against the county, but I didn't. He and Mr. Bigsby, and I don't know if Mr. Graber, don't know how he voted.
You voted no.
He voted no. So
He wasn't at some of the
They-
votes.
they brought them in. He's not protecting all 3 of them. He has a conflict of interest right here because he wants to protect her, and I hope anybody does, I'll give you a copy of it, to protect her for any future firing. And if you read the reasons why she can get fired, it's just unbelievable. So that's the last statement. Do you have something
I
to
didn't-
say?
I
I'm
didn't
gonna
write
move-
that contract.
I'm going to move for adjournment if you have something.
I just want everybody to know that yes, this is probably going to cost the taxpayers, but I was not a part of issuing these contracts. I just had a statement earlier about our transfer station, how the director of the transfer station is doing a great job, doesn't have a contract, and there's no problems.
Right.
So I don't know why we had to have these contracts. I support one contract, and that is the county administrator. I believe in that. It's not just my opinion. It's the League of Municipalities. It's every city administrator, every county administrator. They all have contracts.
So you're gonna pay her what her contract's worth? Because she's got it.
No, we're not paying her.
No.
You're not gonna pay her.
We're
The county's
going
gonna
to,
get
the
sued.
courts are
No,
going to
no,
decide.
no, we don't know
The
what
courts
county's
will
gonna get sued
decide
for.
that.
You want to be like a school board and say, oh,
No,
we're going
I'm
to
just
let this.
saying, you're gonna terminate her, but she has a contract that commissioners sign, just like you guys.
Yeah, well,
And they
now it will be,
They signed
but
it.
now it will
Now
be
you
in the
break
court.
it, she can sue you. Sue
They're
her.
suing us
She's suing us
anyways.
anyway. What do you not understand? She's suing
you
us.
because you're trying to get rid
I
of
move
her
we adjourn.
in violation of her contract.
I just have one more question. The Equal Opportunity Employment Commission complaint, was that dismissed?
Mr. Chairman, members of this board, a EEOC complaint was filed by an individual. That complaint was processed by the EEOC, and a dismissal was issued.
Okay, thank you.
Now, are the, to follow up on the motion of firings, we have cameras down there with door locks. The curtains, thank you, have been raised. I really don't like the cameras down there. I really don't like the, I don't know what purpose it serves. Register of deed doesn't have a camera. Appraiser's office, does the appraiser office have? Now, as I've
Public
said,
Works doesn't either.
there can be some violent people. The world's just full of violent people. So maybe we never need to have cameras everywhere, but locked doors, well, who should be the only people going in there?
Employees.
Employees. Shouldn't be anybody else. I see other people going in and out of that office that aren't employees. Brings up curiosity. It's, county offices aren't necessarily for visitation rights. So I think it's something that our administrator, are you the administrator now or the finance officer?
He's the county administrator,
Okay, very good.
per vote.
So, I move the,
And like I said, I just want to explain to the taxpayers that this board, in about February, sought to seek just a declaratory judgment to see if the contracts were valid. It's a yes or no question. It's not, but these employees countersued. And for some reason, they got heard before we did. And we're no closer now than we were in February, so I think we'll get the thing moving to get our question answered. Yes, sir, Mr. Matthews.
I have a question for Commissioner Holland. Respectfully, sir. With your defense of Ms. Copeland, you had it all prepared very thoroughly. How
Almost
would
looks
you
like
know to
Ms.
do it before this motion was made and seconded and voted on, though?
I said I had a feeling that this was going to happen today, so I spent the weekend.
Thank you.
I hope nobody files an Open Meetings Act against you, Mr. Clinton. It almost sounds like you meant this week.
Either listen to my phone calls, because I didn't talk to anybody. Bob started reading my mind. That's real scary.
I
Wouldn't
think
take
it's
long.
time for Leavenworth County to get on and govern the county.
There you go. I will for
I'll
that.
make a motion to accept the motion to adjourn.
I'll second that.
Voting, aye.
Aye.